We've had a really fun surf here at Fireside Surf, and it's my enormous pleasure to introduce the co-founders and developers of the concept of Fireside Surf, Billy Adams and Patton Nix, who have an incredible personal story and amazing plans for the future for this concept. So I'm going to step out of the way and let them tell their story.
Well, first off, how was the surfing? Right on. And anybody have food yet? How was the food?
Very good.
All right, right on. And I know we're gonna have more in a little bit.
If you have not had food, go ahead and order with the $99 admission. It's a surf, and it's anything off of the menu, and also any drink. So, have some food. We're very interested to see what you think of the food, because honestly, that's the biggest part to what we have here. I think the most incredible part of what we have at Fireside Surf is the food and beverage program. Our wave is amazing. Thank you, City Wave. It's delicious food, delicious beverage, tasty waves, right? So that's what we're about here at Fireside.
We were very intentional about that, by the way. So we knew a lot of people would want to surf, and we figured just as many, if not more, would want to hang out in a great environment with really good vibes and have good food and good drinks so they could people watch and enjoy the experience that is not common to Dallas, Texas, right? This is a completely new concept here. It's interesting. We have people that will stand along that fence line back there, and they just get enamored by this wave. They're so focused on it, they don't even realize there's a restaurant and bar here, and they think it's for pros only or it's like a club type thing. But we were very intentional in ensuring that there was something here for everybody. The food is light, healthy, fresh, inspired by ingredients from surf spots around the world. That was also intentional because we wanted mom and dad to feel good about what their kids are fueling themselves with. For us, food is fuel for performance, right? And we wanted to inject that into this concept and into this brand.
Right on. So what we're going to do here today is we're not going to bore you with PowerPoint slides. What we want to do is quickly tell our story, how we got to this point, what we did, and then open it up to questions, all questions. Just as a show of hands, how many people here are developers? Show of hands. And how many developers here have developed a wave already? Right on. So there are a bunch of folks who here right now who want to develop a wave, and there's a couple of folks here who have already developed a wave. And right now, that knowledge is not cloistered, but it's a very, very small amount of people who have the knowledge that it takes to actually develop one of these. And honestly, we're here to answer questions from the very beginning. What we consider to be a good site, how our banking relationships work, how the concept came to fruition, and how it is to operate this concept. And so if any of you have any questions along those lines, or any other questions, that's what we're here for. We're here to answer those questions. So I want to take a couple of minutes and just explain who Pat and I are. We are Green Berets. I was in special operations for 21 years, and I did basically everything that you could possibly do in special operations. I was on scuba detachments. I was on halo detachments, high altitude, low opening parachuting. I did counterterrorism operations. I was in charge of those teams. It was a very big part of my life for a very long time, and that's where this guy and I met. And so I trust Patton with my life. And so if you're going to take a business partner, make sure that you can trust them with your life. Patton fills in all of the gaps that I have, and I have a lot of them. And so it's super,
So do I.
right?
He fills in those very well.
So that just makes for, what we consider to be the backbone of this entire thing. All the surf culture that comes out of here, all the things that are about this place of Fireside start with us. And that's why right now we've been in business for about 3 months, and we are here in this business every single day to make sure the operations are a reflection of what we think our culture should be. And so we're here for the long haul, and when we move from here, we want to make sure that the culture that is here, we can take from here and take to other locations. That's the magic, and to the fullest extent possible, that's what we're going to do. But would you like to tell a little bit about how we met and that story? And then Christy here behind the scenes has a lot to do with that story. And so,
That's right. So I had a military free fall skydiving team, and we use wind tunnels to train quite extensively. The whole idea is that a wind tunnel is a treadmill for surfing, right? In 30 minutes, I can teach I'm sorry, for skydiving, not for surfing. It's a treadmill for skydiving. In 30 minutes, I can take somebody and give them the equivalent of 200 jumps out of an aircraft in terms of body control, with a parachute, with a rucksack between their legs, with a weapon on their side, with an oxygen mask. In 30 minutes, I can give them the equivalent of 200 jumps in terms of body control. So it accelerates the learning curve, and it makes it really safe. So when I had my Halo team at Fort Lewis, Washington, at 1st Special Forces Group, Billy was building iFly Seattle. He called up my team and said, hey, do you guys want to come fly in the wind tunnel? We're like, well, yeah, of course we do, right? It's great training for us, and it's super fun. And so we got to know each other through that, and I told Bill, like, hey, you know, you should meet my wife. She does video, and I think this would look great on film.
well, he didn't quite say that. What he said was, hey, my wife, in my head, my military spouse wife does wedding photography. And I thought, right on. I was fully prepared to take a look at Christy's website and say, that's great. But does she know anybody in the industry who might be able to do some really slick, high-tech, great video? So I went to the website. I was like, I got to click on a video. I click on a video, totally random. It's this montage. It's like 2 minutes long, and it tells a story of this Asian gal who, when she was a child, this is a wordless story, done through like pictures and video and music. She is a little girl. She dreams of her father giving her away. And like a minute into the video, her father's giving her away. And I'm like bawling. I'm like, oh my God. I called Patton up immediately. I said, man, we have to hire Christy. And honestly, to this day, when we do iFly indoor skydiving and we want to get into a municipality, we show the video that Christy made. And honestly, it melts hearts. And we always have raving fans when we leave meetings like that. And so it's because of the story that Christy told that really connected us together for a long time. And at that point, we were looking to do another iFly indoor skydiving facility in Oahu, Hawaii. Anybody who's ever developed in Hawaii knows how difficult of a task that is. And at some point, we were like, you know what? I think that we want to make a pivot to surfing. We've got this technology. I just saw it. This was 2015, 2014. It's called CityWave. Then we went over to Germany. We tested the tech. We loved the tech. I went around and saw as many sites as possible in Germany, and then we said, okay, we're going to buy that tech. And so CityWave Europe is this tech here, and CityWave is a wonderful wave, and that's pretty much the basis of what we're doing. Do you want to tell kind of the story of how we got here?
Yeah, so kind of backing up just a little bit, when I left active duty from the military, I called up Bill, and the only reason he talked to me was because of Christy, let's be honest, and the film that she made. But I was trying to figure out something. I had gone to Goldman Sachs, and I'd done this Stanford entrepreneurship program, and I was looking to do something completely different than sit in an office behind a computer. So I figured entrepreneurship was for me. And so Bill and I got together, we talked about building an iFly in Hawaii, and then Bill mentioned to me about the same time that I was also seeing CityWave through whatever media that was. And I was like, yes, this is another treadmill for sport, right? This is a treadmill for surfing. You can use a board with fins. It's a deep water wave. It's not, something that is going to give kind of a similar feel. It's something that actually can help you learn to surf in the ocean. And so we ran for it, right? As we did that, we were working with a broker in Hawaii, and our broker is nationwide, but he's at the intersection of experiences and retail. And he called us up and said, hey, I'm working on this development at Grandscape. I just did an Andretti kart there, which is the Andretti indoor go-karting here. And I told these guys that you guys should do a wave there, So we got on a phone call, and Grandscape told us, hey, who are you guys? Because Howard, pointed us to you. And so did Reiner. And and his team at City Wave. And so we'd like to talk to you about starting a City Wave here. That was purely based on the relationships that Billy has formed over all these years with Howard and his reputation within the industry. So one of the big lessons learned, right, is relationships matter. And wherever you are in the spectrum of doing this, those relationships will poke their heads out later, and they're super important in terms of getting things done. That was the start of us getting this done, was the relationship that Billy had formed with Reiner and his family and with Howard. And so we came out here, we looked at the site, and we were like, man, this is too good to pass up. Despite me living in Hawaii, Bill living in Seattle, we were like, let's do this.
Right on. And so, it's interesting the way that this Grandscape is a Berkshire Hathaway subsidiary. And so Grandscape, when Berkshire calls you, I was standing in my loft in my, my place, and I was like, oh man, you had me at hello. And so the way that the intersection happened was we had traveled around with Reiner and the City Wave crew in Europe, and Howard had done the deal with Andretti. And so Howard said, oh yeah, a good operator would be Billy Adams and Patton Nix. And Reiner had said, oh yeah, a good operator would be Billy Adams and Patton Nix. There were two separate phone calls at two separate times, and that's why we got the phone call. So, that really does kind of put, the icing on the cake of like, relationships super matter. And so whenever we move forward, we want to move forward with openness, and that is the spirit of this conversation right here. So we did the lease here, and then once we had the equipment and we had the lease, we found we had banking relationships, and so we leveraged those banking relationships to build this concept. And this concept is a food and beverage concept that happens to have a beautiful wave in the middle. And if you think about it that way, you will succeed. And so that's what we've done here. And for us, what we're looking for, when Grandscape calls, you think that it's going to be in the right area, but we still did a lot of due diligence to make sure that this is where mom, dad, and the kids actually come already. So that's really what we want to do, is to make sure that our Fireside Surf is geared towards mom, dad, and the kids. And the way that we do that is we've got several programs. In the morning, we turn on a couple of pumps, and we'll have kids with boogie boarding from 9 to 11. At 11 a.m. to 10 p.m., it becomes all ages. And we do mom, dad, and the kids, and people come and eat, drink, and watch surf. At 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday night, we have Fireside After Dark. And from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., we have 21 and Up Club, where we have live DJs and bottle service and all of that kind of stuff. So we are 3 different things all in one place. And what makes this go is the fact that we are in a portion of Dallas that is the place where affluent mom, dad, and the kids are already. And so, if you are looking to develop, I would say it is all about location, location, location.
What we loved about this spot is the foot traffic that was already here. Grandscape sees about 10 million people a year already, and they're projecting 20 million by 2025 with the introduction of Pop Stroke over here. Cosm's coming in here soon. Cosm's got a 2,300 occupancy. It's kind of like this, they would hate me saying this. So actually, I won't even say it. They have an amazing visual experience that puts you courtside, ringside, 50-yard line, front row to Taylor Swift, whatever concert it is, live event venue that just has a really immersive visual and audio experience that's unbelievable. But us being in the center of that with a concert stage back here that has 4,000 people, Friday and Saturday nights, Andretti Indoor Go-Karting, Shield Sporting Goods is the biggest sporting goods store in the country. Nebraska Furniture Mart's the biggest furniture store in the country. We love the location, and that's the type of locations we're looking for, our high foot traffic locations. Customer segmentation for us was really important. We decided to focus on mom, dad, and the kids. We heard yesterday that I think Good Surf has maybe a little bit different audience than us. They said 21 to 44, I think, was what they were targeting within their customer segmentation. We decided to go for that younger audience because our goal, Christy's vision, my wife, is to see an Olympic surfer come off of our wave here at Fireside Surf, right? Like the first Olympian to start on a standing rapid surf wave come from Dallas landlocked, at Fireside Surf or one of our locations, right? So we've got a huge vision here, and we got to start those kids young, right? I mean, they need to start young, so that's our segmentation, is mom, dad, and the kids, and then everything else is ancillary to that, and just beneficial on the bottom line.
So what we're talking about here today, and we'll open it up to questions in a minute, is you can talk to us about anything that we've done. Real quick on development. So my development experience in 2007 was I've done indoor water parks, hotels, restaurants, spas, condominiums, a bunch of iFlies, a helicopter manufacturing company. I've developed all of those things, and we leverage all of those development experience right here in this right now. And if there's anyone out there who needs some development experience of experiential entertainment, let us know. We are open books, and we'll answer any question that we possibly can. So with that, I would like to open it up to some serious questions, some fun questions about anything in this concept. And don't be shy, please. We are here warts and all, and we'd love to hear some things that you think that might have been great or bad. So I'd like to open, who's got a question? Just question? Yes, sir.
Are you profitable yet?
Are you profitable yet?
Sorry.
The question was, are you profitable yet? And the answer to that is, man, we are on the hairy edge. I think that this month will be profitable. So we've been in business for 90 days. And as you come out of construction, there's always a long tail for that construction. So there is the day that you soft open. And then now we grand opened about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, a month ago, we grand opened. And we believe that we have pretty much the construction all now paid for, and all of the plating and all of the chairs and all the things, the food, that's all in the past. And so now our balance sheet is encumbered by operational items only. And we think that this month we might be close to a zero, right? We think that next month we'll be in the black.
And I was a long story.
I'm more literal. I think that our cash flow will be sound by the end of the next month. Like, we're going to have sound cash flow. Profitable is it's interpretable, right, on what profitable means. So, but I think our cash flow is going to be in a good place at the end of the next month. So,
good question. Thank you.
Great question.
Yeah.
But no,
super, 100%.
So because you asked, let me expand on it, right? One of the key parts of your financial projections, and Joe, where you're at, when you look at your financial projections, right, you need to budget in your operational cash flow and be very, very deliberate in terms of how many months of operational cash flow you think you're going to need within your financing to cover those months. And we're fortunate that we've got that, still within our loan and with our financing to cover that right now. And so we're in a safe place right now, which is good, right? But we anticipated, that we may not be cash flow positive right away. And so that's where we're at, and that's one of the ways we buffered that as we came into this.
I mean, talking about cash flow, does anybody want to know how we finance this thing? Yeah, right? Like, that's honestly the question that never gets asked, and we're totally open about this. We did a portion of the lift ourselves, and so we leveraged everything that we possibly had. We have
personal guarantees, IRAs,
so
houses.
Honestly,
everything's on the line here.
Banks are timid, right? They are like, oh yeah, new concept, no way, right? And so honestly, when you bump into a bank, the most likely scenario if you have a new concept going into a new area is that you need to find a regional mid-sized bank. If you go up to Bank of America or Wells Fargo, if you have that institutional knowledge, you don't need capital. But for all those who are looking for capital, you need to go to a mid-sized bank, and you need to go to about 10 of them and say, hey, we're doing this. This is your last shot. Are you with us or not? We're bringing in this much money. We have a tenant improvement allowance of this much. This is the way we're structured, and we want you to bring in X number of dollars. And so our debt to equity ratio is about 50-50, right? So our TI allowance and what we put into it is about 50% of the entire nut of our development.
We, Yeah.
Any other questions?
And we went to the bank with a really solid plan, right? You need to go in with a solid plan. It needs to be detailed, in depth. Like, you need to have your financials dialed in. You need to have, what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, how it's going to make money, how you're going to de-risk everything from, COVID to just a downturn in the market. All those things, to lifeguards, and your plan for how you're going to de-risk the customer experience, right? The bank wants to know all that stuff. We did an SBA loan on this, and it worked out really well. I mean, we got a really good, really favorable rate before rates climbed up. But we definitely had, some equity we had to put into it as well. And, we pulled from the coffers on that. But, we're 50-50 partners. There's no investors behind us. So it's kind of all on our necks, which is why people here see us here every single day, right? We're here to make this thing happen, to make sure it's optimized, make sure it's efficient before we go on to location number 2.
And so right now, the first one is going to be on your own dime. No matter where you get that money, it's going to be on your own dime pretty much, wherever you find it. And then the next one, so once you have a place where you can show them, hey, do you want another one of these? Then institutional investment can be a thing, right? And so that's the process that we're in now. We are at the next stage of development. But to get from 0 to now, there's just a lot of tenacity that it takes to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that's basically what we're really good at as Green Berets.
Yeah.
Question?
What's more dangerous, jumping out of an airplane or going quick?
So that's an awesome question, Chris. So jumping out of an aircraft and doing all the things that you do in the military, it's on me. And at least at the end of the day, I know that if that doesn't work out well for me, then my family is taken care of. Now, when you put your developer's hat on, that is no longer the case, right? So your family is now on the line 100%. So what is more difficult? This is, because I could always count on, well, I'm going to be taken care of, so I might as well take that risk and be as complete as possible, immersed in my mission. Here, you always have that noodling suspicion in the back of your head. Are my family, are they going to be okay? All of those things. And I think that that's way more difficult. I really do. Yeah.
You said dangerous though, right? Not difficult. As far as dangerous,
it's not even close.
Honestly, they're the same. No, it's truly, right? Because what we do in special operations is we de-risk everything, right? And we de-risk this just in the same manner we de-risk our special operations activities, whether it's a scuba dive or a halo jump or, insertion into a target. We de-risk that as much as we can. And from a danger perspective, I mean, you can talk about physical harm, or you can talk about financial harm, or you can talk about what dangerous means, right? But they're both equally as dangerous. It's how you de-risk it, right? I mean, this is dangerous to our livelihood for sure, right? It could end our financial livelihood very, very quickly. Jumping out of an airplane is not going to do that, right? That's not going to end our financial life. It's going to end our physical livelihood very, very quickly. But we de-risk both, and we do it in the exact same manner, actually. Yeah, hope that helps.
So the question was, how do we de-risk it? How do we know we can move on to our next location? In the black is super important, and that spreadsheet of your trailing 12 months needs to look really good. Right now, we have a trend line, and that trend line is like this, right? So that looks really good to a bank. That's when you know that you're probably in the right place. If you're bumping along like this, I would focus forever on the current business at hand, right? But if you have that trend line and that trend line is super positive, that's a really good thing to sell to a bank, right? So that's when you know to go to the next one.
And from an operations perspective, I would say once we don't need to be here, once we feel like this place is optimized, efficient, we've got the right people and the right jobs doing the right things without us having to tell them that, then that's a good time for us to feel like we can exit and take all those standards that we've developed and all of those operational procedures we've developed and plug and play those into the second development, right? That's what we're looking to do. Is we want this to be systematized so we can scale it.
Yes, sir.
It's more of a statement than it is a question. In Hawaii, we have a word called kuleana, which is responsibility. I, number one, want to thank you for your bravery for picking up something like this, which is a continuation of what our ancestors created. We come from a long lineage of board builders. My father is mentored by the great Duke of Honolulu. So to see the Duke's passion of aloha being spread around the world by guys like yourselves, it means everything to me. So mahalo.
Thank you. Coming from you, Duke, that means a lot.
I didn't know Duke Aipa was going to make me cry today. my first surfboard was a Ben Aipa.
Wow.
A long gun. Yeah, a Ben Aipa, yellow, like Patton yellow, beautiful board. Yeah. It's great to have you, man. Thank you for that. That means a lot. Aloha. Much aloha.
What was the total cost of the wave pool installation, water filtration, purchase, everything? So what number?
Yeah, bottom line up front, $12.5 million, right? Now, the next time,
everything.
Yep.
Not all this, just the wave pool.
Oh, wave pool, it's really tough to decouple that because, right now you're sitting above 350,000 gallons of water, right? And so this is a cantilevered deck. This entire property is cantilevered over the basin. That's super expensive. And so trying to decouple that, my guess is that, I don't know, half of that, but it's a total guess. I would, the thing that makes Fireside Surf work is people love the view, right? Which is the surf. And the food and beverage is more profitable than the surf. So people come in and they surf and they eat and then they drink. And so really it's that whole combo package that it takes. I would not be interested in doing just a surf. And the only reason that you would do that is if you already had 3 or 4 restaurants right there, right next to it, right? And I can understand that play, but I don't, I don't really have that number of how much would it cost to do a standalone City Wave 10 meter. That's quite hard to determine.
It's also very variable because what we wanted to do here was create a seamless experience with Grandscape. So we went underground and we put it at ground level so that it can be seen from outside of our property by both of our neighbors. And to do that made it much more expensive. When you go into the ground with something like this, it's much more expensive. If you take it above ground and you're able to build dirt around it, for example, or raise it up, the costs go down significantly because your structural costs here are quite extensive. The wave itself, and the filtration system and things like that are probably half of the structural costs, and that's just for the wave piece. We also, our 2 mottos are eat, bond, surf, right? Which is what we're all doing right now. We just surfed, we're eating, we're bonding. Like, we love that, right? And closer to surf, closer to life. Because for me, when I'm on a wave out in the ocean and I'm just looking at the shoreline, like that's it for me. Like, I love being out there. Every stress in my life disappears, right? And I feel closer to life. And so we wanted everybody to be able to experience that. Like, we wanted people to be closer to their kids than they could ever be in the ocean. Like, how many people can be this close to a surfer in the ocean? Even from a pier, it doesn't happen. So this is the closest place you can see a family member or a friend or a bro or a sis, surf. So to do that though, there's more expense. To put this restaurant on top of, our electrical room, on top of our filtration room, that gets, it makes it more expensive. But that was part of the experience we wanted to create. So.
What's your electric cost every month?
They do. So, we're about 35 grand a month in electricity.
For the whole thing?
Yep, whole thing. It's a little bit hard to decouple, but the lion's share of the electricity goes right into that wave.
So there's 2 major components to that to think about, right? So one is your demand charge, and the other one's your kilowatt hour usage charge.
Negotiate all of that.
You should negotiate all of that. A lot of places it is negotiable, right? For us, we're fortunate that Texas is pretty cheap on electricity. Waikai out in Hawaii, I can't imagine their electric bill for a 100-foot wave with that many pumps. It's got to be incredible, right? So
it is a crazy number. Yeah, it's 7 figures.
yeah. But that's a big part of your planning, right? Is this thing does use a lot of electricity. And so if you're going to do something like this, or, or an iFly indoor skydiving, luckily we had that background from Bill. We had done a huge analysis. I took all of his information, I plucked everything from his brain, and I put it all into a spreadsheet and analyzed every location and their electrical costs and all that to figure out what would be an optimal spot for a wave like this, because we figured that the electrical would be very similar in terms of use, and it's pretty darn close. So, good question.
Where'd the name come from?
Fireside Surf. So we looked at 100 names.
We did. We A and B tested I don't know how many names, and honestly, the Fireside Surf name came from this guy, and we threw out every name you could possibly think of. Is the URL available? Does it connect with people? What is Fireside Surf? How could we sell that? Closer to surf, closer to life, eat, bond, surf. It's that after surf, you got the fire on the beach, and that was this guy.
So when I lived on the North Shore of Oahu, and after we get done surfing, we'd have a bonfire right on the beach, right out back of our place on Pipe. And, one of my favorite moments with Christy was up at kind of point, right, when we had the bonfire up there. And so I love that. Like for me, bonding around a fire after a surf session, or just any time, being Fireside, like it's just a place where people bond and connect. So it fit really well with what we were trying to create. We wanted to create, and a lot of this inspiration I think came from Christy. We wanted to create a community here. If you've seen our Instagram and our social media, it's very community focused, right? We're not going out there and doing like these like high impact, like shock value type posts. Most of our posts are about bringing people together, creating a unique experience, and telling a story, an emotional visual story that pulls people together and helps them connect with one another. Christy mastered that with this, and it's really been a huge part of what's brought this together so well, I think, is establishing a community around surf, around food, around connection, in a cool place with resort vibes, vacation vibes,
Behind the speed to market, it was incredible. I forget what you said it was. Any ideas on that best practice?
Having development experience really helps a lot.
I think we're probably one of the fastest from first conversation to opening the doors. We've got to be pretty close. This was less than 2 years from our first conversation with Grandscape to opening the doors here. The longest piece of that was actually negotiations and financing. Those are the two pieces that you really have to budget a lot of time for. I mean, development can take years, 5, 7, 10 years to get something like this done. We were very deliberate in both, very proactive from Bill's experience, going after banks, going after financing, putting together a really solid plan very early and delivering that plan. We already had the plan made before Grandscape called us, right? All we had to do was put the Grandscape face on it. And so that accelerated the timeline of what we got done. We already had the financials prepared for something like this. We just had to put the Grandscape financials into it and adjust for this market. So all that stuff was done, which really set us up for success in terms of accelerating the timeline. And then, we did a design build here with a general contractor that Bill has done years of experience with over time. So he knows them, he has a personal relationship with them, which really, that accelerates things as well, because you already know what you can trust, what places you have to, de-risk, because that GC's weaknesses and strengths. That helped us a ton.
So the next one that we build, we'll easily cut out $1 million. You don't know what you don't know, right? And now it's all known, and we'll cut $1 million out of this next development, and we'll do it probably, from the time that we put a shovel into the dirt to open, it's probably going to be 6 months next time. iFly indoor skydiving facilities from shovel in the dirt to open was 6 months, and we got that down to a science. And I'm taking that blueprint and we're applying that to Fireside Surf, right? So
we planned for 8 for this, and it ended up being 10.
Yep.
And part of that was weather.
Yep.
What was your design builder?
Yeah, so Parkway Construction has built a lot of iFly indoor skydiving facilities with me. They just happen to be right up the street here. So they're Parkway. And Parkway's a super good general contractor. It's tough to find an honest general contractor, quite frankly. You have to go through a lot of them, and I have. And Parkway has been super stellar. They're really good people. You can always tell when something starts going sideways, when the general contractor climbs in and there's more people on your project. That is a super, super great thing. And that's what they're known for. Yeah, so yeah, love those guys. Really do.
When you go into this, like, do your homework on all the individual components, right? Because all these things have to fit together, and communication is super important. Communication is absolutely the thing that makes this thing sing or stall, right? And so, that's something that we're going to work on even more for next time. We pushed hard for communication during this, and it's always going to be rocky until you kind of figure out sometimes you don't even know what questions to ask, or what information that needs to be provided, all those things. But the wave needs to fit with the filtration, which needs to fit with the electrical, which needs to fit with the overall, facilities development. The restaurant and bar, menu needs to fit with your kitchen program, right? And what equipment you're going to have back there. All those things have to come together in a very seamless way to pull something like this off in a dramatic way, if that makes sense. So I would say, that's probably one of the biggest things for us is communication going forward. And taking all the lessons we've learned, right, and implementing those, which there's a million of them, of course, right? Like, for example, we have last night I was here at 2 a.m. because if there's too much water in these pools, right, like, your wave may or may not form, and so you do have to maintain your water levels, right? And our system isn't completely optimized for that yet in terms of automation. So I was out here till at 2 a.m. until we started this, making sure that our water was at the right level so we'd have a great surfing experience today, right? So stuff like that, like next time you'll bet that we will have an automated system to control those water levels very, very closely as best we can.
It's actually tough we put too much water in the pool because we got 2 inches of rain last night, and we have a system that automatically dumps water. It will dump 1,000 gallons, but once it does, it fills up this 1,000-gallon bucket, and it has to be manually put into the sump. If you have that automatic and the sump fails, you'll empty your pool and everything will be flooded, right? So, it's those things that for the next one, when we think about where to put the sump and how to make it so that it, if something does happen that's catastrophic, that water goes somewhere else, right? That is the kinds of things that on the next one we will be thinking about and designing right towards immediately. I have a list that is about it's not a joke and it's not an exaggeration. It's about 500 lines long for the next one. So I keep a running list of exactly how the next one's going to go. And when we do the next design, I'll go to the architect and we'll say, we go right down the list, right? And so that's how we incrementally improve. And we, to the fullest extent possible, when you are developing, give us a call. We are open books, man, and we will answer any question that you have, really. So right now, we want to make more surfers inland. Most people here will never go out to the ocean, but creating surfers here is super fun. And honestly, there will not be a saturation of the market for a very long time of waves. And we want to make sure that people understand and begin to understand, just like now, if I say I fly indoor skydiving, most people in the country know that, oh yeah, that's that place that you can go skydiving. We are 15 years prior to that moment, right? And every single wave that gets built gets us closer to that moment where people are like, oh yeah, stationary waves. Well, I can't wait till one comes to our town, or there's one over here or one over here. Lagoon waves, same thing, right? So we are stoked for that moment, and we want to help you achieve that. Right on.
Billy, where's Fireside Patton? Where's Fireside 2.0 going to be?
Yeah. So good question. So he asked where Fireside 2.0 is going to be. we've got a laundry list of locations we're talking to, and we've probably got 4 or 5 that we think are pretty serious locations. One of them is this existing landlord. We're looking at going with them to Austin, Texas. So keep it close and be able to manage both of those. We think is important for the first couple. But we've got a location in Scottsdale we're talking to, L.A., Tampa, Charleston, Miami, West Tampa. We've got a lot of locations, primarily in the Sun Belt.
Right.
We're interested in putting these things indoors as well, but we know that's a whole different nut. And corrosion and sound are the things we're worried about with indoor. And we don't love the experience as much, frankly, for indoor as we do outdoor. Like, it just has a better vibe for outdoor. So we're looking at how we can make that a functional experience that changes winter and summer. But yeah, that's kind of where Fireside 2.0 I think is headed.
And that was actually going to be the second part of my question. So you think the first, call it 5, 10 firesides are going to be outdoor locations? You guys going to focus on outdoor?
Yeah.
There is. The question was outdoor versus indoor locations. The experience is change. It does change quite a bit. There's Oana Surf in Switzerland. They're an indoor location. They've pretty much done it as well as it can be done, in my opinion. But you lose something about the surf experience. So I do think that when you do have an indoor location, that it has to have a retractable roof. All the sides have to come up, garage door style or open plan style. And when it is closed, sound attenuation of falling water is a really big deal, and so is HVAC. It's a really big deal. And so those things have to be done, and they have to be done well. There's a location in Montreal that does it pretty well. They're a different technology. The surf is a very different, but they do it pretty well. But again, the HVAC it's tough to have chlorine not eat your stuff alive, right? When it's like that. Yes, sir.
What's your water temperature when you first opened up? How close to the air temperature is it to pull that? In other words, how much is the pump add to the water temperature?
The pumps do 2 things really well. The question was, what was the water temp? The water temp was really cold, and it got warmed up about 1 degree a day. And then you have to cool it no matter what. In the wintertime, you have to cool it. So in the summertime, you have to cool it, right? It has to be cool all the time. You have to cool the water in the winter. Yep.
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, we started when we started. It was about 40 degrees, in the 30s. The water was about 38 coming out of the hydrant. We got creative. Here's an insider tip for you: make friends with the fire department, right? Because they filled our pool for us in a pinch because we made a good relationship with those guys. Relationships matter. But the water coming out was about 38 degrees. Initially, we got about 1 degree of temperature increase every hour.
Initially.
And then once the weather warmed up, we got at about a degree a day. So during the winter, I think it's going to sustain itself probably, and we may not need to chill when it's in the 30s and 40s outside, like we do, certainly during the summer when it's 110 here. But we'll see. We don't really know yet because as we warmed up the pool, the temperature warmed up with us. So, I'm sorry?
What needs to be cooled off?
The water itself.
So the pumps themselves, when they run, they overheat themselves because that water is just recirculating, right? And so just the heat off those pumps will warm the water up, and you've got to chill that down because otherwise the pumps overheat. Right now it's about 90 degree water.
A little less today. No, it's about 86 today because we got the rain.
Felt good.
Yeah, right.
Perfect
Yeah.
after that.
Right on. Yeah. If you look behind you, there's these square boxes. Under those are the pumps, and the pumps are 7-8 feet tall, and there's 12 of them, and they do two good things. They heat the water and they make the water move. Right. That's it. They are. So municipality. This Sulcer makes the pumps here. But there's many pump manufacturers, all have their pros and cons. There's super long lead time. You got to think about them early. They're great pump manufacturer. Yeah. Questions?
I went. Are you considered a seasonal business? Are you planning on closing in November, December? What are your thoughts?
No, so we're gonna add more shade. We're gonna add more heat. We believe, we hope, we're optimistic that as we get core surfers here, we've already had a bunch of wake surfers who are pros and core surfers who don't have access to either their boats or Waco Surf or these other locations in the winter, express interest for being here way more during the winter months. And so we think that'll be a core piece of our business during the winter months. And it's a pretty short season here. You know, we'll probably have 10 weeks of bad weather. Thunderstorms aside, we didn't anticipate as many thunderstorms as we've gotten this year. So that's been a little bit of a, you know, throwing a wrench in the mix. But yeah, we'll be open year round. So January. Yeah. We were here surfing in January this year. So Noel was here surfing in January this year. And it was great, wasn't it? Yep, wetsuits. We had a great time. We felt good. I was in board shorts and a t-shirt, I think. Good question. Anything else, guys? I know we've gone kind of long here.
Our hope is that you look to us as a resource, and that today that you at the very least got some good surf, got some good food, good drinks, and good connections, right? So I really appreciate everybody being here today, and thank you very much.
And I've got one last piece here before we do that. Sorry. Trying to box me out, man. So, Joe, you asked earlier, what's the future for us, right? We're trying to figure that out right now, actually, in many ways. We're thinking we might grow organically, right? That's been the primary direction of travel for us. We've been looking at primarily at organic growth and just taking this on with the two of us. We are open to partnerships. You know, we're open to strategic partnerships. We're open to different ways of financing these things, different ways of funding it. And we're in a unique position where we actually don't fall under CityWave USA. And so we're trying to figure out with CityWave USA what that looks like, if we're going to be able to buy away from them, whether we'll be able to move forward with another CityWave, whether we'll be able to keep our brand name as Fireside Surf, or if we'll have to take on Good Surf since they own the Good Surf name, right? We're trying to figure out all those things. It's a very unique and tough position to be in right now for us. And so we're also open to other technologies and other manufacturers because we have to be, right? Because CityWave USA owns the market here in the United States, and they control whether or not we can build a wave with them. So we have to be open to other technologies right now. And so, you know, we're open to those conversations too. And that goes back to your question on what Fireside 2.0 looks like. We're trying to figure that out. We're trying to figure it out fast because Austin is moving. Like Grandscape is ready for us to move on Austin with them, and they want to know our plan. So we need to know it. So we're asking CityWave USA tough questions in terms of what we can do. We're asking CityWave Europe tough questions in terms of what we can do with CityWave, because we have to move forward. If we're going to go to Austin with our landlord, we've got to make those decisions. And we love CityWave as a product. We love CityWave as a family, and we want to move forward with CityWave. But we're in a position where we have to look at all the options right now because we're kind of backed into this corner. So that's what the future looks like for us.
So if you have any questions about us, just get with us anytime. We'll take, give you my phone number, email, all that good stuff. And I'm glad that you all came out here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Appreciate
guys.
y'all.